Chris Martin is here. He's the lead singer of the rock quartet Coldplay. The band's debut album in 2000 was Parachutes. It won the Grammy for Best Alternative Music Album in 2002, and the following year, Coldplay won 2 Grammys for their second album, A Rush of Blood to the Head. In 2004, they won the Grammy for Record of the Year for their song Clocks. Their current album is X and Y, which was released in 2005 and went on to be the best-selling record worldwide of last year. Here is a look at some of their work. Chris Martin is also an advocate for fair trade practices in an effort to reduce world poverty. I'm pleased to welcome Chris Martin to this table for the first time.
Hi, Joe.
Chris.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for joining us. So, not only are you about to go off to Japan to finish up a world tour.
Australia and Japan,
but you've got another project. Just recently, a new son.
Yep.
Just not even 3 weeks old while we're talking. No. Congratulations.
Thanks a lot.
Moses Martin. Your daughter Apple has a biblical name in a way too. It's like you started with the book of Genesis and you've moved on to Exodus now.
Exactly.
Okay, was that the plan from the very start?
Everything is planned meticulously according to biblical proportions.
You're the oldest of 5 children. How big a family do you anticipate having?
17, 20.
Really? Can't wait to get back to work, can you?
I think
progeny.
I'd like to be married at least 12 times.
Being a father yourself, how has it changed your perspective on who you are and what you do?
Well, I think it puts everything you do into sharp relief, and it makes you more focused, I think. But we were focused before. I think everyone would say it makes you realize what your priorities are, Going bowling isn't such a big deal for me anymore.
Were you a big bowler before this?
Not huge, but I mean, it had to go. So, I've only kept on the things that I really loved.
You have less time for what's unessential?
I have less time for, exactly what's unessential.
Now,
I don't go dry skiing nearly so often.
When did you first begin performing?
In a professional manner.
Well, say before that, as a child.
Well, I had a teacher. My dad came home from Venice one time with my mum, and they gave me this, I suppose you'd call it a ukulele. I didn't call it that, I couldn't pronounce it.
How old were you at the time?
Maybe 7 or 6. And they forced me out onto the streets to earn some, no, they didn't. They gave me that, and then they were always encouraging me to play and do what, they never sort of constricted me in any way. So, I'm sure we must have done something at Christmas or something like that. But the first concert I remember doing, I was probably 10 or 11, and I had a great teacher called Stephen who came into our school and said to everyone, you don't have to be classically trained to do music, and you don't have to be able to read music, to write music. And he sort of tore up the rule book in our school, which was kind of a strict school. And so I just loved hearing that, and so I started writing little melodies when I was about 10.
You were then playing the piano?
I was more, I don't know if piano is more sort of Pet Shop Boys keyboard. I would stand behind a keyboard very proudly, which I would never do now.
But you gravitated towards the piano because I know in high school you often spent a sleepless night in a practice room playing the piano.
Actually, it's more of a sort of, I'm like a Salt Lake City music, no, I don't want to say that. I'm like, have you seen that show Big Love?
Yes.
Where he has 3 wives?
Yes.
Well, that's how I am with singing and piano and guitar.
Those are your 3 wives.
So they're my 3 sort of non-wife wives, and most people think that I spend most time with the piano, but in fact behind closed doors I'm just as fond of the guitar. I don't know if I can say that, but
you mean the piano will get jealous?
I don't want to get anyone jealous or anything, but I love them all equally. I don't like being thought of as just someone who just plays piano, because I don't actually play the piano that well, so I sort of don't want to pretend that that's like my only trick.
Well, you're playing the Pet Shop Boys keyboard. You're in school.
Yeah.
At what point did it start to appeal to you that this was something that you wanted to do?
Well,
to make a career or build a life around?
Even at 11, girls were a lot nicer to me when I just stood behind the keyboard for 5 minutes than when I just, played golf 5 minutes, whatever. I didn't ever play golf, but I think, but I mean, that's one aspect, maybe like 10%, but as cheesy as it sounds, it just felt like that was my thing. I still get the same kick out of it, even today. Like, I've been in the studio all day, just writing and trying to think up new things, and it feels the same as it did then, except my voice is lower.
Let's talk about your writing process.
Mm-hmm.
When you are writing a song, where does it come from?
Well, that's the, $100 billion question. If you work for Warner Brothers, it's which I might do. Nobody knows where it comes from. It's like being a fisherman. You can have all the rods and all the, jackets, but you can't really make the fish come to you. I suppose you can. But I just sit and play and play and play and wait. And when a good song comes, or what I deem to be a good song, you might disagree as the editor of Rolling Stone, but when a good song comes, I don't have any idea where it's come from. All I can say is it's just time. I just put the hours in.
So for you, it's a search every time.
Yeah. Because I think if you design a song, it's never as great as a song that just arrives. So I can sit down and write a song now about this beautiful round brown table and the grain and all that, but it would maybe be a little contrived, more than if I just waited and see what came out.
And do you start with music or with lyrics?
I start with something that surprises me. So like you were talking about piano and guitar, when I feel like I've played too much piano and I know what I'm doing too much, I'll stop and I'll pick up the guitar and detune it all so that I don't know what I'm doing, which is to me the best way. I think that if you're totally naive about what you're doing, you can come up with something great, even if you then realize it's actually a really simple chord sequence, or it's the same chord sequence as yesterday, But that's how I get excited about it, is when I hear something that I haven't heard before, even if it's just a chord or some change or something.
So literally flying blind is important for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me ask you about the songs on X and Y. There are a lot of lyrics about feeling lost and broken.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a song like Fix You, or
Yeah.
there's a really great lyric from Talk that's very straightforward. Do you feel like a puzzle, can't find your missing piece?
You think that's a great lyric?
I love it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's very simple.
It's so funny at this point because anything you do, someone says it's great and someone says it's terrible.
But I think what people miss about that is that it's very plain, and therefore it is a feeling that you can relate to very easily.
I think if we can take credit for one thing, it's making plain glamorous.
Well, let me ask you about those lyrics on X and Y. What was it that was lost, or what needed fixing?
Well, life has got complications, and lots of people around me have things going on. I don't always have to write about myself or my own experience. There's a song called "The Scientist" on the album before that, which most people think is about me or something, but it isn't. It's about this guy I know. So maybe at that time, it was at the time of writing all those songs, there was, I don't want to be down, but there was a lot of people kind of dying around us.
The album is dedicated to your wife's late father.
Yeah, among other people, Bruce Paltrow, yeah, who I never actually got to meet, but I came to admire very much, I always have people who come up to me somewhere in the Midwest or something, and they say, "Oh, your Bruce Paltrow gave me my first break." So to me, it's apparent that he was a great guy. So I'm very proud to have done that. But it's dedicated to some other people, but also I don't know why, but those lyrics just seem to come out. Now it's gone somewhere else, but at that period, that's what I was singing about. Maybe because I was confused about all the changes going on in my life.
And the changes going on in your life were moving towards marriage and fatherhood?
Everything, and becoming famous and having people not like you anymore, and having some people who like you too much, and all those things. And also realizing that the president isn't necessarily a mythical character who isn't as human as you are, Because I didn't really, where I grew up in Devon, I never mixed with famous people or anything, so you kind of put them on this other planet. And then when you arrive on that planet and you realize, oh, it's still earth, and everyone still, has to shave, even some of the girls. It's kind of a great realization because you realize that you can, do things yourself, but it's also a scary one. Like, well, who's in charge then?
I think there are things that people find it difficult to understand about fame, because it certainly looks like fun from the outside.
Oh, it's fantastic.
There are some free things. You get to meet Angelina Jolie.
Yep.
There's an upside.
That's too big. I mean, the upside is a million times greater.
There's also something else you mentioned when you were talking about that period making this record where you were coping with changes in your life. You also mentioned a new idea of people not liking you.
Yeah.
Which is something you really had to face on this record. The New York Times stepped out to call you I don't want to quote it from memory, but it might have been the most insufferable band of the decade.
Yeah. Well, I think they're correct. We're doing what we can to change that. Wow. I actually love, at the time it happens, those sort of things, it's a downer for a while. And then I think, like I said, if you have a competitive streak, like my only wish now is to talk to the people who have ideas about, I don't mind being told this is bad and this is bad, as long as someone's got a positive idea about how you could improve. We're obsessed with getting better and better. So criticism is essential, and although we kind of had some hardcore stuff, now, like 9 months later, I love the fact that we've got it, and we just want to try and, make us a bit more sufferable.
So at this distance, it's a challenge.
It's a challenge, and it's great, and you should have people slagging you off, because if you become the biggest or the second, whatever, if you become a big band,
mm-hmm.
You could just become detached and think that everything you do is great, and we're well aware that it isn't.
And this is also something that U2 in their heyday had to face as well in the 1980s.
They're still in the heyday. I think it's more of a hey week.
Well, let's say in their early heyday.
Right.
Say their heyday
Earlier
continues now. But in the 80s, this is something that U2 had to face as well. There was that moment on Rattle and Hum, the live album, where Bono asks, "Are we bugging you?" And for many people, the answer then was yes.
But I don't mean to bug you. Well, I like it, that record. I love it. But everyone's been through it. And this is what I'm saying. One of the great, great, great privileges of what I do
mm-hmm.
is that I get to meet people who have been through everything we've been through. And they, whether it's Bruce Springsteen or Stevie Wonder, or all these people that were just like I'm saying, mythical people to me. It's, however we've managed to get here, we've managed to be able to sit in a room with some of these people and have them say, Chris, don't worry about this, just make sure you try this, or make sure you don't, become obsessed with that, Now,
you have the habit of writing things on your hand. I know the last time I saw you, you had a few notes on your hand. Tell us about what's written on your hand right now.
Well, this is actually an equal sign, but no one, I decided before we released X and Y, because I'm sure we'll talk about it in a minute, but we decided to advertise, if you will, the idea of fair trade.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, we're in a lot of photographs, and there's only so much interesting about a picture of four men,
mm-hmm.
not particularly handsome men, except our bass player. So I thought, well, maybe I could use that space to advertise. And so on the last record, I would write Make Trade Fair on my hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the spirit of changing things for every album, I thought, well, this time I'll write an equal sign on my hand. And
this has become a symbol for Make Trade Fair.
They designed it.
Yeah.
I can't take credit for the equal sign. I can take credit for Soft Rock as it stands in 2006, but not the equal sign, Joe.
Well, tell us about Make Trade Fair.
Well, in 2001, I was in our then manager's office, who's now our sort of fifth member, guru, whatever you want to call it. And he said, we just got a letter from Oxfam about fair trade. I was like, fair trade, is that some sort of baking contest, And he said, no, they want to talk to you about maybe going on a trip to Haiti. And I said, okay, I'll talk to them about that. So, and at this time, especially in England, we'd just become kind of big. And we were starting to get offers for advertising contracts, you know, for Pantene Pro V. Do you have that here?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Well, it's the best of shampoos. At that time, we were starting to get offers for things like that, and we didn't really want to do any of those. But we realized that we lived in an advertising-obsessed world, and we worked in an advertising-obsessed world. So we were looking for, so we'd had the idea amongst the four of us, well, maybe we could pick an idea to advertise and then put on our hand in every picture. And at the same time, this letter came. So I met with some people from Oxfam, and they said, well, fair trade is really the idea that everyone in the world, this is the ideal, everyone in the world gets rewarded fairly for what they do. And, you know, according to what they produce, they, you know, like going back to the medieval system of bartering. If I've got 2 bananas, you give me an orange, or 3 plums, or whatever you want to give me.
And so part of the idea is to eliminate tariffs on plums, bananas,
well,
rice, coffee.
No, there's 3 main issues, and the principal one is the fact that in the Western world, particularly in Europe and America, we subsidize our farmers very heavily, which is great. You've got to look after your own farmers. Often then what happens is that there's a surplus of, let's say, rice for Haiti. There's a surplus of rice in America. So instead of just, I don't know what you do. Instead of just not producing so much and still giving the subsidies, the Haitian market, which has been forced to have open barriers because of their World Bank loan, has to accept this rice into its country, which on the surface level is good. It's like, oh, it's cheap rice. But actually what it does is destroys their own rice farming industry. I'm not very good at explaining it.
No. I mean, this is part of the issue.
So to me, the main issue of fair trade is the fact that you have to, if we're going to protect our own markets in Britain and in America, which we should also allow Mozambique to protect its cotton farmers, and Ghana to protect its coffee farmers, and Haiti to protect its rice farmers, by not flooding them with stuff that we paid for with our tax money, you know?
Mm-hmm. What are your plans for the next record?
Our plans are to try and make something that's overwhelmingly fantastic. And that at this point we feel like we've been given this incredible job. Like we feel like we're the busboy, but we've been given the manager's position. It's like, well, we've been given this job of being a huge band, so either we can sit around and buy chateaus, or at least get mortgages on chateaus, or we can try and make some great records. And as simple as it sounds, that's what we're going to try and do.
Any plans to reinvent what you do?
I never want to say that, because...
you have a master plan, but you won't give it away, don't you?
I have a master plan, but it's in my pocket. I can't give it away.
Well, Chris, I want to thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's a good place to leave it, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you.